On September 9th, 1996, at around 4:30 in the afternoon, a fire broke out in a private house in Shibamata 3 Chome, Katsushikagu, Tokyo. It had been raining hard all day, but the fire didn't care. It kept raging on. People said the flames were so huge you could see them from far away. After 2 long hours of battling the blaze, firefighters finally managed to put it out. But when they went inside, they found something shocking: a young woman's burned body lying among the scorched furniture and walls. That woman was Junko Kobayashi, a 21-year-old college student from Sophia University. Her mouth and hands were tied with adhesive tape, her legs were bound with pantyhose, and there was a stab wound on her neck. It was a gruesome scene. So what could have possibly led this bright, promising young woman to such a tragic and horrifying end? This case would go on to become one of the 3 biggest unsolved mysteries of the Heisei era. So many clues, yet no clear answers. This is the story of the unsolved murder of a Sophia University student. Okay, it's 2025. Why are we still carrying around these outdated, bulky wallets? Like, even wallets need technology these days. What if I told you that there is a wallet you can't lose? Meet Ekster, the smart wallet designed for speed, security, and never losing your stuff again. So here, this little finder card inside, it makes your wallet unlosable. It's a slim, rechargeable card that fits in your wallet and connects to your phone for easy tracking. Ring it, see its location, and get alerts if left behind. All with Apple Find My. Plus, no more digging for cards. Just click a button and they pop up instantly. The Parliament wallet and carbon fiber card holder hold 12 plus cards, have RFID blocking for security, and are made with premium materials like space-grade carbon fiber. Now they have a 30% discount, and with my custom code DARKASIA, you can get another 10% off, which means you can get up to 40% off. So stop carrying old school wallets and upgrade to a smarter one in 2025. Click the link below. On that rainy September day, Japan was shaken when Junko's body was discovered inside the burning house. The fire had been so intense that it took 2 hours to get under control, even with the rain pouring outside. When investigators examined the scene, it became obvious this was no accident. The fire had been set intentionally to destroy evidence. Junko's body told the story, bound, gagged, and stabbed. The police quickly determined it was a murder, likely committed by someone who knew her and was familiar with the house. So who was Junko Kobayashi? She was a 21-year-old 4th-year student studying English in the Faculty of Foreign Studies at Sophia University. People who knew her described her as cheerful, kind, and well-loved by everyone around her. Though not much is known about her early school life, her friends remember her as someone who was always there to help. She had a passion for traveling and dreamed of becoming a journalist. Her goal was to travel the world and report the truth directly from the field. Junko Kobayashi was known for being smart and driven. Her teacher even described her as one of the brightest students. In fact, she had just gotten the chance of a lifetime to study journalism in the US and fulfill her dream of becoming a full-fledged journalist. But tragically, she never got that chance. Just 2 days before she was supposed to leave, Junko was brutally killed in her own home. One of the most heartbreaking details of the case was found among the burnt remains of her house. The fire had completely destroyed the home, but buried under the ashes was a piece of burnt manuscript paper. It was something Junko had written during a discussion about international issues. When people read the words that had survived the fire, they couldn't help but feel the depth of Junko's passion for the world and her dream to make a difference through her writing. Now, there was another detail that caught attention. In a 1999 article published in Shincho 45, it was mentioned that Junko had a boyfriend. Although there wasn't much information about him, rumors on the internet suggested that their relationship was happy and stable. Because of this, investigators ruled out any possibility that the crime had anything to do with romantic entanglement or jealousy. So let's get back to what we know about the day Junko was killed. Her family's house was located about 1,300 meters south of JR Kanamachi Station and close to other nearby stations like Shibata Station and Keizei Takasago Station. On September 9, 1996, it had been raining nonstop all day, and by 3 p.m., the rain was coming down so hard you could barely see ahead. At that time, Junko was at home with her mother, Sachiko. Her father, Kenji, was away on a business trip to Fukushima, and her sister was at work. Around 3:50 p.m., Junko went downstairs to the first floor, where her mom was getting ready to leave for work. They had a brief conversation. Junko asked if her mom planned to ride her bicycle despite the heavy rain. Sachiko said yes, and that was the last conversation Junko ever had with her mother. When Sachiko left, she closed the front door but didn't lock it. According to neighbors, everything seemed normal until about 4:15 p.m., but around 4:35, things changed. At 4:39, neighbors noticed a bright light outside their windows. When they looked closer, they realized that Junko's house was on fire. They immediately called 119, and firefighters rushed to the scene. The fire was finally extinguished around 6 p.m., but by then, the damage was done. The house had burned down to almost nothing but charred remains. Once the fire was out, firefighters searched the house to make sure there weren't any hidden flames or embers. And what they found was horrifying. The second floor had partially collapsed, and that's where they discovered Junko's body. She was lying on her side on her father's futon in her parents' bedroom. Her mouth and hands were bound with adhesive tape, and she was covered by a summer blanket. The blanket had been tucked in tightly around her, almost like a sandwich. Junko was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. After Junko's body was sent for examination, they found 6 stab wounds on the right side of her neck. The wounds were likely caused by a sharp blade, possibly a knife about 8 centimeters long and 3 centimeters wide. Because of the multiple stabbings, it was concluded that Junko had bled out and died from those injuries. She had adhesive tape covering her mouth, and her arms were tied with the same type of tape. Her legs, however, were tied with stockings in a unique type of knot called the karage knot. This knot is typically used in various trades like landscaping, kimono dressing, and even stage costume work. This detail stood out to investigators. When they examined her hands, it was clear she had fought back. Multiple wounds suggested she struggled to defend herself. Despite being tied up, her clothes were undisturbed, and there were no signs of sexual assault. Interestingly, there was no suit found in Junko's trachea, meaning she had already been dead when the fire started. Investigators believe that the killer set the fire afterward, possibly using matches. The fire appeared to have started near the Buddhist altar in a Japanese-style room on the first floor. Junko's computer, which had been on the first floor, was completely burned. But here is a strange detail. The father's slippers were found on the second floor near her body, along with some duct tape that had been used to bind her. However, the murder weapon was nowhere to be found. Police tried to trace the source of the duct tape and discovered it was a product manufactured in Shizuoka Prefecture. Unfortunately, since it was a widely distributed product, they couldn't use it to narrow down the suspect. They also found strands of what appeared to be animal fur stuck to the tape, later confirmed to be dog hair. Since Junko didn't own any pets, it was believed that the perpetrator might have lived or worked near a dog. Junko had resisted the attack, and in the process, it seemed the killer had left their blood at the scene. Testing revealed that the perpetrator's blood was type A. However, since DNA records in Japan are only logged after someone commits a crime, the police had no database to match the DNA. Without a prior criminal record, the perpetrator remained unidentified. Another puzzling detail was the fire itself. It started in the Japanese-style room near the Buddhist altar, but Junko's body was found in a completely different room, the farthest room from where the fire began. If the fire was meant to destroy evidence, wouldn't it have made more sense to set the fire directly where her body was? Why risk leaving evidence behind by starting the fire on the first floor? Some theorize that the perpetrator might have wanted to frame someone, possibly Junko's father, by leaving misleading clues like the slippers on the second floor. This strange behavior, along with other details, made investigators lean toward the theory that the crime was committed by someone who knew Junko and her family well. Someone who had access to the house and enough knowledge to stage the scene in such a confusing way. During the investigation, police received 2 key eyewitness reports of a suspicious man seen near the scene just before the incident. According to witnesses, around 3:55 p.m., right after Junko's mother left the house, a man was standing right in front of the Kobayashi family's entrance. He was staring at the family's nameplate on the second floor. The man was described as being around 150 to 160 centimeters tall, but his facial features weren't clear. What made the sighting even more suspicious was the weather. It had been raining since the morning, and it was unusually cold for September, more like early November. But the man wasn't carrying an umbrella, which stood out to people passing by. Years later, in 2004, the investigation headquarters released a doll modeled after the man's description. They even released an updated illustration in August 2004 after receiving new information. On August 20th, 2004, something interesting happened. Junko's father, Kenji, was being interviewed by a TV station near the house when a woman nearby caught his attention. She was staring at him, and when approached, she revealed some important information. The woman, who was 21 years old at the time of the murder, lived about 1.8 kilometers away from the Kobayashi house. She told the police that around 3:30 p.m. on the day of the incident, she had been riding her bicycle to a friend's house when she saw a suspicious man standing at an intersection about 15 meters south of Junko's home. She described him as being around 150 to 160 centimeters tall with a medium or slightly thin build. He was wearing an ochre-colored coat with a collar and a dark, sweat-like pants. This man looked to be between 50 and 60 years old and was holding a black umbrella. Based on the description, police believe this man could be the same person seen earlier near the Kobayashi house. Once this information was made public, theories started swirling. Some people believed an acquaintance of the family had committed the crime, possibly to frame Junko's father. In fact, for a while, some even suspected the father himself. However, after thorough investigations and questioning, police confirmed his alibi, clearing him of any involvement. Another theory was that the crime had been committed by someone with a personal grudge. This idea was supported by the violent nature of the attack. Junko had been stabbed in the neck multiple times, which suggested a deeply emotional or vengeful motive. The way her body was found also hinted at familiarity with the family. The futon was carefully draped over her, and her father's slippers were placed nearby, almost as if to create a stage scene. Police thought it was possible the killer knew Junko or the family well and might have had a grudge against them. Then there was the stalker theory. During the investigation, it came to light that Junko had been followed by a suspicious man not long before the murder. About 10 days before the incident, Junko had attended a farewell party with her university friends and part-time job colleagues to celebrate her upcoming trip to the US. They spent the evening having fun, singing, talking, and drinking together. But the night took a scary turn. Around midnight, Junko called her family from a payphone at the Keisei Electric Railway Shibamata station. She sounded frightened. She told them that as she walked down the road, she realized someone was following her. She became so scared that she turned back to the station and asked for someone to come pick her up. Her mother, Sachiko, immediately went to get her, but by the time she arrived, the stalker was gone. Just a few days before the incident, Junko was on her way home from a visit to the dentist when she said something to her family that would haunt them forever. She told them that if anything ever happened to her, they could identify her body by the treatment marks on her teeth. Hearing that, her family felt a wave of unease. It was as if Junko had a premonition that her life was in danger, but no one knew what was making her feel that way. Given these circumstances, the investigation naturally focused on the people closest to Junko, friends, acquaintances, anyone who could be a suspect. But after thorough questioning, police didn't find any problems. It was possible that the perpetrator entered the house and got into a fight with Junko and killed her, but nothing could be confirmed. Junko was described by everyone as a kind, gentle girl who never caused trouble and was loved by those around her. Her boyfriend was also questioned, but their relationship was solid. In fact, some said they had even talked about marriage and their future together. His alibi was checked and confirmed, so he was cleared of suspicion. Another popular theory was that the murder might have been the result of a robbery gone wrong. According to this theory, the perpetrator had broken in to steal something, but was caught by Junko, leading to a violent struggle. This idea gained traction because an old 10,000 yen bill from the family's living room cupboard had gone missing. This wasn't just any banknote. It had a portrait of Prince Shotoku and was issued in 1986, making it a valuable collectible that Junko's father Kenji had kept as a souvenir. There was also evidence that the cupboard had been forcibly opened. However, this theory didn't fully add up because a rucksack containing 140,000 yen in cash, along with Junko's bank book, had been left untouched at the scene. The money was meant for her study abroad, but the perpetrator hadn't taken it. Despite the various theories, the police investigation eventually hit a dead end. Many people came forward with information about Junko's life and how she interacted with others, but nothing led to a major breakthrough. In 2003, when there was no official bounty system, Junko's father Kenji took matters into his own hands. He set up a private bounty of 5 million yen for any information that could help catch the perpetrator. At one press conference, Kenji appeared heartbroken, admitting that this was the only thing he could do for his beloved daughter. 4 years later, the National Police Agency introduced the Special Investigative Reward System, which provided public bounties of up to 3 million yen. For Junko's case, this brought the total reward to 8 million yen, including the 5 million from her family and 3 million from the public bounty. In May 2007, Junko's parents, Kenji and Sachiko, visited Seattle University. It was supposed to be the place where Junko would have studied and pursued her dream of becoming a journalist. But instead of celebrating her future, they were met with a painful reminder of what had been taken away from her. Sophia University juniors who were studying at Seattle University welcomed them warmly, something Junko herself should have experienced. Kenji couldn't hold back his tears as he thought about the life his daughter was supposed to have. In an emotional gesture to honor her dream, Junko's parents entrusted a piece of her hair and a photograph to the university. They asked that it be buried in a quiet corner of the campus where a part of Junko could rest, as if she had finally made it to the place she had dreamed of. On the anniversary of the incident in 2008, just 3 years before the statute of limitations was set to expire, Junko's parents, Kenji and Sachiko, were still fighting for justice. They were actively campaigning to abolish the statute of limitations for murder cases and handed out leaflets asking for information from the public. Kenji believed that the statute of limitations was unfair to grieving families and that no time limit should exist for prosecuting heinous crimes, especially those that could warrant the death penalty. The following year, Kenji formed an organization called Soranokai, which translates to Association of the Sky, alongside other bereaved families, including those of the victims from the Setagaya family murder. Kenji served as the representative secretary and gathered around 76,000 signatures in their campaign to push the government toward change. And their persistence paid off. On April 27, 2010, during a plenary session of the House of Representatives, the revised Code of Criminal Procedure was passed. It officially abolished the statute of limitations for murder and other serious crimes on the very same day. Kenji, who was sitting in the audience that day, later recalled how one council member stood up and said something that brought tears to his eyes. Junko might be saying, "Dad, you did your best from heaven." In September 2012, Kenji became the chairman of Soranokai and continued to push for justice. Even after undergoing 2 surgeries for cancer in 2018, he refused to give up. He was still out there on the anniversary of Junko's death, distributing leaflets and seeking answers. The Soranokai didn't stop with just abolishing the statute of limitations. They also campaigned for the creation of a civil redress system to help families receive compensation. Many bereaved families, even after winning lawsuits against perpetrators, struggle to collect damages because of high administrative costs or issues with enforcement. The organization advocated for a system where the government could step in and cover the compensation costs for such cases. In March, Kenji took things even further. He asked the National Public Safety Commission to develop rules for creating updated caricatures of criminals based on DNA evidence left at the crime scenes. He wanted law enforcement to use every tool possible, whether it be DNA analysis or forensic profiling, to finally catch Junko's killer. In 2020, some of Junko's personal belongings, which had been stored by the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department for the investigation, were returned to her family. Most of the items were things she'd used while teaching English during her summer vacations. There were notes with English greetings, messages from friends, and small mementos of her volunteer work. One sooty piece of cardboard contained heartfelt messages from people who loved and admired her. Some of the notes read, "You have the power to pull everyone along," and "I really love your smile." The police also returned around 400 photographs recovered from the crime scene, including negative film. As Kenji looked through the photos, he saw Junko's bright, smiling face, captured during moments when she was enjoying drinks with friends, traveling, and making the most of her youth. But those happy memories only deepened his pain. He couldn't help but cry, haunted by the thought of what could have been if he hadn't left on his business trip that day. Maybe he could have been there to protect her. Although the Kobayashi house was demolished after the incident, Junko's memory still lives on. Every year, her family and loved ones gather at the site to pray. A memorial tree has been planted there as a tribute to her bright spirit. In addition, a standee resembling the perpetrator is displayed in places where he was seen on the day of the crime, in hopes that someone will recognize him and finally say, "I know that person." After all these years, Junko's case remains a mystery. But maybe you have a theory. What do you think motivated the perpetrator to commit such a horrific crime? Was it a grudge, a robbery gone wrong, or something else entirely? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And that is all for today. Thanks for watching.